Ukrainians are an East Slavic ethnic group native to Ukraine, which is by total population the seventh largest nation in Europe and the second largest among the East Slavs after the Russians. The Constitution of Ukraine applies the term Ukrainians to all its citizens. Ethnic Ukrainians have historically been known as Ruthenians until the early 20th century, referring to the medieval land of Ruthenia, which was the Latin term for Kievan Rus, a medieval East Slavic state with the capital in Kiev. After its collapse, the kingdom of Ruthenia was emerged. Starting from the 15th century, the people of Ukraine were also known as Cossacks. The connection with the Zaporozhian Cossacks especially is emphasized in the Ukrainian national anthem. We are brothers of Cossack kin. According to most dictionary definitions, a descriptive name for the inhabitants of Ukraine is Ukrainian or Ukrainian people. The majority of Ukrainians are Eastern Orthodox Christians. The ethnonym Ukrainians came into wide use only in the 20th century after the territory of Ukraine obtained distinctive statehood in 1917. From the 14th to the 16th centuries, the western portions of the European part of what is now known as Russia, plus the territories of northern Ukraine and Belarus. But at that time, it was mostly known as Ruthenian, like its sister languages. In the 16th to 17th centuries, with the establishment of the Zaporizhian Sech, the notion of Ukraine as a separate country with a separate ethnic identity came into being. However, the ethnonym Ukrainians and the linguanym Ukrainian were used only occasionally, and the people of Ukraine usually continued to call themselves and their language Ruthenian. After the decline of the Zaporizhian Sech and the establishment of Imperial Russian hegemony in Ukraine did not spread widely among the peasantry, which constituted the majority of the population. Ukrainian peasants still referred to their country as Ukraine in areas outside the control of the Russian Soviet state until the mid-20th century. Ukrainians were known by their pre-existing names for much longer. The appellation Ukrainians initially came into common usage in central Ukraine and did not take hold in Galicia and Bukovina until the latter part of the 19th century. In Transcarpathia until the 1930s, and in the Prešov region until the late 1940s. The modern name Ukrainci derives from Ukraina, a name first documented in 1187. Several scientific theories attempt to explain the etymology of the term. According to the traditional theory, it derives from the Proto-Slovak root *Kurj, which has two meanings, one meaning the homeland as in Nash Rodnoy Kurj, and the other edge, border, and originally had the sense of periphery, borderland, or frontier region, etc. According to some new alternative Ukrainian historians such as Hryhorij Pivtorak, Vitaly Sklerenko and other scholars, translate the term Ukraine as inland, homeland, or our country. The name in this context derives from the word Ukraina, in the sense of domestic region, domestic land, or country. In the last 3 centuries, the population of Ukraine experienced periods of pollinization and Russification, but preserved a common culture and a sense of common identity. Most ethnic Ukrainians live in Ukraine, where they make up over 3/4 of the population. The largest population of Ukrainians outside of Ukraine lives in Russia, where about 1.9 million Russian citizens identify as Ukrainian, while millions of others have some Ukrainian ancestry. The inhabitants of the Kuban, for example, have vacillated among 3 identities: Ukrainian, Russian, and Cossack. Approximately 800,000 people of Ukrainian ancestry live in the Russian Far East in an area known historically as Green Ukraine. In a 2011 national poll of Ukraine, 49% of Ukrainians said they had relatives living in Russia. According to some previous assumptions, an estimated number of almost 2.4 million people of Ukrainian origin live in North America, Moldova, Uzbekistan and Romania. There are also large Ukrainian communities in such countries as Latvia, Portugal, France, Australia, Paraguay, the UK, Israel, Slovakia, Kyrgyzstan, Austria, Uruguay and the former Yugoslavia. Generally, the Ukrainian diaspora is present in more than 120 countries of the world. The number of Ukrainians in Poland amounted to some 51,000 people in 2011. Since 2014, the country has experienced a large increase in immigration from Ukraine. More recent data put the number of Ukrainian workers at 1.2 to 1.3 million in 2016. In the last decades of the 19th century, many Ukrainians were forced by the Tsarist autocracy to move to the Asian regions of Russia, while many of their counterparts Slavs under Austro-Hungarian rule emigrated to the New World, seeking work and better economic opportunities. Today, large ethnic Ukrainian minorities reside in Russia, Canada, the United States,